my question, and then if you need to clarify, I'll let you do that, is while sensing the absolute, how do I not let past awakenings that I've had interfere with that? So I guess what I'm getting at is I've reached a point in my practice, I've been practicing diligently for a few years, where I can sense that knowingness. That's the term I liked best, and I can sense it well. And my seeking has really stopped for the most part, other than I seem to be spinning around in circles looking. It's more of a looking now. And I've had 3 or 4 awakenings where that sense of self was just, boom, just gone. And there's just that, oh, this is what they're talking about, I think. And so occasionally I find myself not so much as clinging to those, because I recognize that, that's pointless. I see it now, in hindsight, it's now became an experience, it seems to be. But at the time, it was so grounded and real and clear. And so I find myself still a little bit sticky, referring back to that, trying to see or sense that experience that was had.
Okay. I get it. I got it. Okay, I'm going to give you my response on the air. I really thank you for this question. It's a great question. Lots of people have very, very similar questions, so I'm really glad you came up with it, Cody.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, yeah, well, my gosh, how many people listening from the 40-something countries that people are listening to this program have had some similar experience of Cody, where where it's sort of seemingly the perception suddenly becomes clear. The teachings you've been hearing sometimes for months or years you suddenly seem to understand them. It seems so simple and so obvious. You feel like you could never not see what you see. You can never not recognize what you recognize at that moment. And then often, given some time, it seems as though that great clarity and understanding you had diminishes to some extent, greater or lesser extent. And there you're left, And so, when you've had some real fundamental opening, one of the ways I always distinguish an awakening from the vast variety of spiritual experiences we can have has become awakening always has to do with some vital shift, change in how we perceive ourselves. We wake up from the idea of who we thought we were. Whereas we can have lots of spiritual experiences and they never really shift. It's just like, oh, I had this experience, and it doesn't really shift our sense of who we are. Awakening will always shift your sense of who you are to a greater or lesser degree. Now, it's more common to have, even with awakening, to have a kind of very clear understanding that then later seems to become blurred or obscure, or sometimes it seems like it disappeared. Then you're in a sort of a strange paradoxical position, because if you've had the change of identity, that change in some manner will still be with you, even when the experiential qualities of the awakening disappear. There'll still be some shift, which will always result in a diminishment, if not an elimination, of the sort of seeking desire, because with awakening we realize that we are what we've been seeking. So if I really know that I am what I've been seeking, it puts a real crimp in my seeking. What am I seeking for? But you can lose that sense of vitality, that sense of clarity. It can become obscure. This is quite natural, actually. It doesn't mean that what you saw wasn't real. It doesn't mean that it was of no use. You will, no matter what anybody says to you, you will still have a tendency to grasp back at the memory of it, even if you're trying not to do that. It's like given the greatest thing in your life, and then somebody saying, "Okay, now I'm going to take it away, and don't ever want for it again." It doesn't. It doesn't really work quite that easily. As a way of being useful, let me say this: what I ask almost everybody that gives me a story similar to the one, Cody, you gave me here, is I always say to them, "Okay, what is it that you realized?" And that with that moment of clarity, let's call it a moment of clarity, what about it, about that moment of clarity, is still with you now? What about it? What that you realized then is still with you now? You see, because most of the time what we get focused on is what we've lost. And what we need to do is not be too concerned with what we've lost. Refocus on what haven't I lost. And I'm not saying to grasp onto it, but you just rest your awareness there. You just rest your awareness on what you haven't lost. Even if it's just a teeny, teeny little speck somewhere inside of your being and your consciousness, just rest your awareness right there, and don't try to grasp it, but do bring the awareness to it. Acknowledge it. Because a lot of times you can be so busy saying to yourself what you thought you lost that you're not really acknowledging what you didn't lose. And that's the important question. What wasn't lost? What hasn't been lost? What is it that can't be lost? And of course, there'll be part of you that will refer back to that memory and might like to have it be just like that. But that's usual, that's normal, and it just won't work that way. Often our first awakening is it's almost like God just comes and says, "Okay, I'm not waiting for you anymore. Here's reality. Boom. See? I'll show you. I'll put it right in front of your face. You can't miss it." And then it's almost as if it recedes and says, "Okay, now I showed it to you. I came to you. Now you come to me. Now you come to it. Now you come to that reality. Now you put your attention on the perfume that was left inside of you by a real moment of clarity. And you just put your attention there. Now you come to it. Now you don't just wait for some force of grace to make it all clear. Now you come inside to what hasn't been lost. And what's still known that you realized then, that you still actually realize now. And just put your attention there. Just rest it there. And that will keep the door open for the aperture to open again. Right? Anyway, okay. I could go on and on.